Come and lie in this queen-size bed.
Welcome back to At the Mic with Michael Schumacher, brought to you by JR's Oasis. More than a fuel station, more than a convenience store. It is your one-stop travel shop on ESPN Radio, 101.5 FM, 1570 AM, KVTK, Vermillion, and Yankton. And that was J. Jeffrey Messerol. Again, I'm going to be hosting him at the AME Allen Chapel in Yankton on Saturday, May 31st, a free will donation. All proceeds go to the artist. We're hosting it as a house concert. So hopefully you guys can make it out for that as part of our Little White Church sessions. All right, I told you we had a special guest coming up. I just received the press release yesterday that the South Dakota High School Baseball Association Hall of Fame announced its 2025 class for this weekend. I'm sure it's been out there. This is just the first time it was released to us. And the 2012 Vermillion Tanagers team is a state championship team is going to be inducted. And on the line, we have the coach for that team, Jason Gault. Jason, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. It's great to be back on 1570. Happy to talk about kind of an exciting time for our 16 players on the 2012 state championship team. So, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for agreeing to it. It came together quickly. I got the notice yesterday, and I was like, oh, man. And I know it's this weekend, so was hoping to be able to get you on and maybe get some other players and stuff on. But just tell us, you're already in the South Dakota High School Baseball Association Hall of Fame as an individual for your contributions. But what does it mean for this accomplishment, for this team, to be inducted with that group?
Well, I really think this team kind of epitomizes just hard work, great kids. They were in a spot in a championship game where they had to come back and win it. And really throughout the season, it was kind of one of those special seasons. We just had a great group. These kids had all played together since they were 9 years old. They came up through Vermillion Youth Baseball, and so, they had lots of great experiences together. As teeners, they were a state championship team. I watched them win it. Coached by Jason Huska, Bill Settles, and Ed Meyercourt. Those guys did a great job kind of fine-tuning, so that when we had them at the varsity level, we knew they were pretty high-caliber players. They played well together. Heidkamp and I, my assistant coach, Nick Heidkamp, and I recognized pretty early on that, they could have a shot, but like any state title run, pieces were going to have to fall into place to make that a reality. So the big factor we were concerned about, honestly, was this was the first year that South Dakota High School Baseball went to wood bats. Now, since then, they've moved on to metal. But so we knew that having like a solid defense, being able to throw strikes, having good team speed, hitting and bunting, those were all going to be kind of our focus that year, and the kids really bought into it. And we watched the run kind of happen in front of us, and we had some great players that helped us along the way. But certainly it was a team-inspired state championship more than anything. We didn't have any superstars. We had, like I said, great kids, great human beings, and I think they just took it upon themselves to never give up. And man, what a great season it was. I look back now, and I think those are some of my favorite memories. And obviously, I'm hoping some of their favorite memories. They are certainly they earned a spot in the Hall of Fame, and I think that SDHSBA when it came up who the team that they were going to induct was going to be this year. I certainly know a few of those guys, and they said, we got to put that 2012 team in there. That was such a special season for them.
Well, and it was a special season. Like you said, baseball is one of those where we've seen it in the MLB. We see it on colleges and stuff. One great player can't carry a team, even if it's a great pitcher, because you have pitch counts and you can only go so often. So obviously multiple players had to contribute to that. Maybe take us through, and you probably know all of them, but I hate to put you on the spot. Kind of take us through the players on that team. Just kind of walk us through them, because obviously various ages too. It's not like it's like, they're all seniors. It various ages that went on to do various things. Kind of tell us what you can if you remember them some.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll start first of all with some of our seniors. We had at the time now Morecraft. He was an all-state pitcher for us, big, tall kid. He actually, I believe, he started the state championship game for us. Had a 1.75 ERA all season. Was 4-0 for us throughout the year. He really kind of was probably our number two, but would have been a number one on any other team throughout the state. We had DeAndre Ford, who was a speedster outfielder for us. He ended up being an all-stater the next year, but was our leadoff and could run really well. Caleb Miller was a senior that was an academic all-state kid, just kind of a coach's dream. He was one of those guys that took on the leadership role, played first base for us. He's over in France now. I mean, he's doing great things, and I'm hoping he'll be there. I'm not sure if he'll be able to or not, but Caleb was a big part of kind of setting the standard for some of our younger guys. Mitch Ellison was another senior for us. He was an academic all-stater as well. I believe Mitch is probably one of the smartest kids that I knew. He lives down in Omaha, and he's smart because I think he married a doctor. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Mitch as well. Nate Garrett, he did some pitching for us and played outfield. He pitched in the state championship game as well. And then we had kind of a group of juniors at the time that really did a great job for us in their first year of varsity baseball. Tanner Anderson was a third baseman for us, a defensive wizard, hit really well too. He was, I believe, an all-stater the year after we won it in 13. But we always used to say that when Anderson would dive for something, make an amazing defensive play, it was just Anderson doing Anderson things. Stormy Mertz was another all-region player for us, and he ended up playing second base and outfield, batted .400, had a huge double to kind of get us back into the game and rally in that sixth inning when we were down, I believe, by 4 runs. That kind of ended up, we tied it up and then went extra innings with Tommy Moore to win it. Tanner Settles was our shortstop. Tanner's an accountant now. I love talking about the things that these kids have done after baseball in their real lives, right? And we've got some pretty successful kids. Tanner played shortstop. He actually was the walk-off walk that won the state championship game for us. He was at the plate when that happened, and his dad was our statistician and a good friend of mine too, and I know the Settles family really well, great people. Jace Huska, who's the son of Jason Huska, who's a longtime Vermillion athletic director. Jace was young. He was one of our sophomores, and he had to come in a tough spot in the state championship game and catch Chase Meyercourt, who threw the ball pretty hard, but a lot of times Chase didn't know where that ball was going. Speaking of Chase, Chase was a all-state player for us, and he batted .529 that year. Was an offensive stalwart for us, and did some pitching, caught, and was really kind of our offensive spark plug when we needed things to happen. Chase was usually the guy that would make that happen. Peter Hott, I'm just running through. I'm trying to think of everyone. Peter Hott was another one of our outfielders that was a junior at the time, and he was honestly had one of the most important spots in that game because he was the tying run on second base that we actually used him as a pinch runner at the time, came in and tied the game late. Let's see, who else do I have? Colin Olson, he was another outfielder for us. He was a junior. Colin was a fast kid, kind of a contact hitter. Let me think. Joe Mazur, I can't forget Joe Mazur. Joe was another outfielder for us and a junior that just was a solid all-around player. I believe he's teaching now somewhere out West River. Hoping I can catch up with him too. And then we had Demarius Cheeseman, another kid that he was one of those important bench players for us that we had to make sure that if somebody got hurt, we had somebody on the bench that was available, and that's not a role necessarily that every kid wants to have, but Demarius took it in stride and had a good year for us, and was just as important as any of those other kids out there. I think I got them all. I'm hoping I got them all. But if I miss somebody, I apologize, and I'll catch up with them later. But that team was that season was pretty neat. I think we had eight of our games throughout the season were determined by, I want to say, 2 or less runs. So we played some close baseball games, and obviously in Region 1, probably one of the strongest regions in the state, going up against, some great teams, some battles with Bonham, some battles with Dakota Valley. Beersford had a good team that year. So we really, we went through, it was a grind getting there. But when we got there, then we just kind of settled in on probably one of our best pitchers, or one of the best pitchers throughout Vermillion's baseball history, and that was Colin Bertram. Little lefty, didn't throw super hard, had great off-speed stuff. And he was a kid that was an all-stater for us, had a .66 ERA, was 4-0 for us. And he was the one that basically threw a complete game shutout against Millbank in the semifinals to get us to the state championship game. I think he allowed 3 hits that game. We won it 2-0. I mean, it was about as good of a high school baseball game as you can imagine. Probably an hour-and-a-half game or something like that. So, Colin was our guy, and he was. We knew we had a great chance when Colin was on the mound for us.
Well, that was, you rattled them off. You did well. And if you forgot somebody, I'm sure they'll forgive you, because, it's funny as time flies, and I think COVID kind of wonked everything up. But you think 2012, you're like, oh, yeah, that was a few years ago. And then you're like, oh, wait, that was 13 years ago. It's been a while. I know my daughter's going to be 22. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, she was 9. So it's one of those things. So, that year, obviously, you guys defeated St. Thomas More. Did you but coming into the season, kind of feels like you had a sense that you guys had something special. When did you really know? I mean, obviously, there had to be a point in the season you're like, you know what? If we're playing to our ability, sky's the limit. Yeah,
I think the key was, when you get through that region, and I'm sure Coach Heisinger will say the same thing, like you got to have a chance. You got to have a shot at it. We knew we had a shot if we had, if our pitching was okay, if we were smart about making sure we're moving guys into scoring position, because runs really were at a premium. They still are in high school ball, and I think that, as much as we talk about launch angle and exit velo, you got to put the ball in play, and you got to make defenses make plays on you. But in return, as a defensive team, you've got to be able to make routine plays, and we knew we did a pretty good job of that. This group of kids, they were good baseball players, good athletes, good kids, but good baseball players. And I think that, after we kind of took care of business in the region tournament, and then we got, we knew we had a tough Millbank team that we had to play, but we also knew that we had, Colin Bertram in our back pocket. We had some kids that were playing really well that had good region tournaments. We were just going to take that momentum and carry it. And it's kind of a nice feeling when you get the state tournament. You're just like, all right, we did it. This was our goal. Our goal was to get here. So now let's just, let's go ahead and try to win this thing. So, and then obviously philosophy and strategy plays into whether you throw your one in the first game or you save them. And we've kind of always been in the opinion that you got to get there first, right? So you try your best to get there, and then you see what happens after that. So, but we knew fairly early on that, in the right circumstances, obviously a little luck plays into that with any tournament run, that these kids would have an opportunity to win it. And then it just came down to heart. It came down to those kids not giving up. They easily could have folded up when we were down 5 runs against Tommy Moore early in that game, and things weren't really going our way. But that's the beauty of the game of baseball is, one hit, one bunt, one whatever the case may be, one error can change everything. So, and they just stuck to it, and all of a sudden they're state champs. Is pretty neat deal.
Well, it is, and it was the first one in Vermillion history, and it's a town that has some history with baseball and has seen some success since then. But obviously, you were coach at that time. Now you've moved on. Where has life taken you in those 13 years?
Yeah, I coached Vermillion baseball for 16 seasons. I was the Legion and the high school coach, and kind of got to a point in my life where we had an opportunity down in Lincoln, Nebraska, and my wife and son and I moved in 2000. I believe it was 2016, and we obviously look back on Vermillion, as a great time in our life, and memories that obviously situations like this that come up are just it's a special place, and it still is a special place. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give Vermillion and the community credit as a whole for everything, not only personally but also baseball-wise, right? From the parents who haul their kids around to practices and games, and they cheered for our teams, to our Parks and Rec. They made it a priority to really develop Prentice Park into an amazing baseball facility while I was there. And I had played college ball for USD, and Prentice back in the late 90s was a completely different facility than what it is now and what it was kind of as I was coaching. The school district supporting our athletes and our coaching staff. This was something that was new to high schools in South Dakota, and we certainly appreciated all the support from Jason Huska and the administrators and teachers. And I think it helped to spread the word that Tanager baseball was really something special. I coached and lived in obviously other communities since Vermillion, but I don't think anything compares to like what our 2012 team coined the term B-Town Pride. And I just think it goes to show you that Vermillion's one of those communities that's going to support its kids. And I think that's a really special thing that you don't have in every community, whether it's baseball, whether it's show choir, whether it's track. Personally, I'm just fortunate to just played a little part in the success of baseball in Vermillion. But the lion's share of the credit goes to obviously the players. In our case, the 16 guys that are getting inducted into the SDHSBA Hall of Fame. They're so well deserved. And like I said earlier, I'm just looking forward to seeing those guys in the flesh now. You try to keep up with as many people as you can over the years, but you kind of know how it goes, right? So I'm looking forward to shaking their hands, meeting their families, their kids, and seeing what great things they're up to now. And I don't think that opportunity happens enough in coaching, right? I think that I'm going to really relish the experience to hang out with those dudes and, have another day in the sun with them. So we appreciate the organization for giving us that opportunity, right, Mike? And we'll make sure that those guys get what they deserve. So.
Well, and that's exactly right. And, just to touch on two things you mentioned, I think too many coaches, athletes, you go your different directions. And sometimes I don't think you don't get these Hall of Fame things for everybody, but all of a sudden it's a funeral when you get together, right. Or it's like, I wish I'd been able to tell him or her this, so this is kind of a fun opportunity for that. And, if I'm not one myself, but if somebody is a partaker in a beverage, they're actually old enough that you can have an adult beverage with them now.
Absolutely. That will be one of the things that we probably will do. So,
well, before I let you go, obviously everyone has their own perspective of the games. Whether they're center field, second base, bench, whatever. But when you guys get together, do you think there's just even one moment, one memory, and maybe it's that walk-off, maybe it's that, but one moment that you guys are all going to be able to coalesce around and say, oh yeah, that was it?
Yeah, I think there was a little 2-run flare that Colin Bertram hit in the 6th inning that ended up tying the game. And we had Peter Haught. He was pinch running at second. I had mentioned he was our guy that had really good speed, and he stumbled going around third probably 3 or 4 times to the point where I thought he was going to hit the dirt. But he kept his balance, and actually, if you watch it was that was the first year that I think the game was televised, and if you watch that that video of it, I mean, he does everything he can to not fall flat on his face to score that tying run, and what ended up being a fairly close play at the plate. But that was a moment as a coach where like everything slows down, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, we got this far, and Peter Haught's going to fall. We're not going to score this run, and the game's going to be over here shortly." But that moment where just everything kind of a little chip shot down the left field line from Colin Bertram, scores 2, ties the game. They have to make a pitching change. That pitcher they put in ends up struggling. And, then we go extras and they make another pitching change. And like I said, sometimes it's just one little play, a duck snort, a Texas League, or whatever you want to call it, right? Ends up changing the entire atmosphere, the entire mentality of our kids, their kids, our fans. I think that's one that stands in my mind. Obviously, the walk-off walk was pretty incredible. It was one of those scenarios where we felt like I think we had the bases loaded at the time. We had no outs. So we had lots of ways that we were in the driver's seat, but you just never know. And Tanner Settles, being kind of a guy that had a pretty good eye and didn't strike out a whole lot. He's got a 3-0 count, so he's on a take anyways, and takes the pitch, and there's history right there. So those guys end up with a state championship trophy, and we get to celebrate and have a good time.
Well, that is awesome. I think that's going to be such an amazing experience for you guys, and that is actually this Saturday, isn't it? Is that the ceremony at 5:30 at Sioux Falls Stadium?
We're kind of hoping, Mike, that we can get inducted, and then I can watch one of my old players who coaches the Yankton High School team, Drew Lawrence. We're kind of hoping we can watch him play in the state championship game, but they'll have a tough order, I think, with Sioux Falls Jefferson right away. But all you need is a shot, right? So we're going to be cheering for the Bucks. Hopefully, we'll be able to watch them after we get inducted at the late game that night. So
that would be amazing. I tell you what, with Yankton, if they have Mark Cottle on the mound, they always have a chance. That kid, he's not a flamethrower. I know people love flamethrowers nowadays, but that kid's a high school Greg Maddux, and I know that's high praise, but one of those with great accuracy, great movement. He just threw a no-hitter the other day. Love watching Mark Cottle play. So when he's on the mound, Yankton always has a great shot. So hopefully the timing works for him to get some innings in.
Absolutely. So best of luck to the Bucks and Coach Lawrence and his staff. And obviously, I saw the Tanagers took a tough one last night against Elk Point, but Region 1, it's tough, and you just they had a great season, and I kind of follow them from afar, and obviously I've got the utmost respect for Coach Heisinger and for what he does and the things that he's improved upon since I've been there. It's fun to see that kind of happen and see Vermillion baseball continue to grow, and so they'll be back. I know they've got a solid group of kids that are coming back next year, and you move on from tough losses, and you make it fuel for the next season. So best of luck to those guys as they start their Legion season as well. I know that's firing up.
That is, I think, a couple of weeks out, and then they start doing that. So, hey, Coach, and I'm calling you Coach. Are you still coaching anywhere?
Yeah, I'm still doing a little coaching. So I coach the freshman high school team at Norris High School, and I'm also the reserve Legion coach. So I'll actually be headed. I'm in a tournament. We've got a Legion tournament in Kearney on Saturday morning. We've got a couple games in the morning, so I'll be driving to Sioux Falls via Kearney and then hopping back in my vehicle and finishing off the tournament on Sunday. So,
all right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. So appreciate it. Best of luck with your travels, and congratulations on getting inducted, this time with the 2012 team. And just have a great time. Enjoy the moment.
Hey, I appreciate it, Mike. It's great talking to you guys.
All right. You have a great day, sir.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Jason Gault, the head coach for the 2012 state champion Vermillion Tanager Baseball team. They're getting inducted this Saturday into the South Dakota High School Baseball Association Hall of Fame. So, reach out to, if you know some of those players, reach out to them, congratulate them, tell them to have a great time. Love covering Vermillion baseball, and we'll be covering Post 1 this summer as well. So we'll be back with more. This is At the Mic with Michael Schumacher, brought to you by JR's Oasis. More than a fuel station, more than a convenience store. It's your one-stop travel shop on ESPN Radio, 101.5 FM, 1570 AM, KVTK, Vermillion, and